Welcome to Discovery Session, hosted by Casey Chung. Have you ever thought about your relationship with your phone? I know you have relationships with people, your mom, your dad, your girlfriend, boyfriend, coworker, you name it. We've all learned at some point in our life to build relationships with people. Yet, have you really thought about building a relationship with your phone, the internet, social media, YouTube, Netflix? Well, this was something that I started thinking about in late 2018. I came back from a 1-month trip in Southeast Asia with my friends and my sister. And during that trip, we were mostly just using our phones for getting around, like directions, booking hotels, booking flights. And most of the time that we were spending there was with each other, enjoying the food, enjoying the sights, talking about things that we normally wouldn't talk about at home, like what poverty looks like, or being grateful for clean water, clean streets. And I'm not saying that the streets of Vietnam and the Philippines are dirty, but what I'm saying is that it's different than what we have here in Canada. In late 2018, I came back to Vancouver and made a commitment to myself that I wanted to understand my relationship with myself better. I came back from a month after writing the CFE, which is a big exam for people that are training to become professional accountants. And I spent years studying for that exam. That would include my grade 12 accounting class, 4.5 years of university, and another year studying while working. And up until that point, I had that as my goal in mind. My goal was to complete this exam, get my professional designation, and then what? Well, I didn't really think that far, to be honest. And while I took that month off in Southeast Asia, I began to think for myself into what I really wanted, what I wanted to achieve in my life, what kind of man I wanted to be. And coming back to Vancouver, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to learn what I wanted to do and establish what I wanted to do and make it happen. So it took a little bit of time for me to become comfortable with this idea of control, or this idea of consciousness. And what I did find out was my device I saw as a distraction. And you would hear news articles saying that social media has a negative impact on people's self-esteem, causes anxiety, addiction. And in late 2018, early 2019, I really wanted to challenge myself and understand this. So what I did was I started becoming intentional with understanding my relationship with my device. The first thing was monitoring how much I use it. When do I use it? Why do I use it? And I realized a lot of the time I was just scrolling through Facebook. Well, not so much Facebook. It was mostly Instagram at the time. And I realized I wasn't even getting a lot of news feeds from my friends. It was mostly companies or different organizations trying to sell things to you. So I took it into my own hands and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to put a pause to social media for a little bit and understand this relationship that I have with it. I do not want to get addicted. I do not want to end up using all my time to scrolling through this device. So what I did was I just hid Facebook, Instagram. I didn't use Snapchat very much at the time. I hid it from my homepage. And over the first few weeks, I'd somehow get back to it. And I didn't take it that seriously at the beginning. I was just becoming mindful. So I probably within the first month, I became very comfortable with my relationship with social media. You know, I would go on sometime to see what people are doing. And it became pretty clear to me that I was able to have control and I wasn't addicted. I didn't have tendencies to go on my phone too much when not really intending to. So fast forward to today, it's been more than a year. It's March. And I now have a year's worth of experience into assessing and monitoring my relationship with social media and my phone as well. I've learned that feeling that I got when traveling, being so mindful, present, excited, curious about the moment, invested in people's interests. I learned that my phone was a distraction at the dinner table, in meetings at work. Just put it away. So I learned to build that boundary with my phone. And the difficult thing was accepting others for their relationship with their phone, especially family, where I remember times I'd be eating dinner at home and my mom would be on her phone the whole time. And I'd have to say, Mom, I need you to put down your phone for a little bit. Let's just have a conversation. And at that point, I realized that her generation was going through what we went through as teenagers. So that was the purpose behind my desire to build a relationship with my phone. And I'll talk about the pros and the cons. But the big pros from this was that I found that I had more time to myself. I replaced scrolling through social media and watching hours and hours of YouTube before bed. I replaced that with reading and journaling. I built a habit of writing every single night before going to bed. And what I found was my sleep improved. I was able to fall asleep faster. I woke up more refreshed. And I had something to look back at the day after to understand what I was thinking, what I was feeling. And I started building all these concepts of understanding my own life. And one example, I think it's a fairly typical example, is the iceberg. In that we usually only see the tip of the iceberg. And I like to take that analogy and bring it to myself in that I only see the tip of the iceberg of myself. There's so much depth into people. And I've been digging deeper into understanding what's below the surface in myself. And with that, it took a lot of work toward journaling, through art. Art, like I said, is really, really helpful, through sharing with people, sharing vulnerability. What I'm doing right now on this podcast is sharing things that I don't share with many people. Yet, I found it was the best way to dig deeper below the surface. And the deeper below the surface that I went with myself, the more I was able to dig deeper with those around me. If I bring out my vulnerabilities, I learned that other people become comfortable bringing out their vulnerabilities. And when two people having a conversation are vulnerable and actually speaking what they're feeling and thinking, you have a beautiful human connection. So that's one thing that I learned from removing myself from social media, is that I learned to go below the surface for myself. Another thing that I learned in that realm of depth is, what was it about social media that I liked and that I saw benefits from? It's connection with friends, connections with my community, connections with the world. And I'll have to say, over the last year, I may have been a little bit less connected with that. I wouldn't be checking Facebook that often, so I'd miss out on some Facebook events just fully. And I know some of you guys could relate to that right now, because we have so many different platforms, even like TikTok's coming in, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. There's so many different ways to communicate now that I encourage you all to explore your relationships with these technologies. But over the last year, I did find that I was less connected with the outer world and, the internet world. Yet I became much closer with the people close to me. And I'd like to start off with my family. I became much more grateful for those that are in my life. Similar to the feeling of coming home after traveling for a week or two, or a month, or 4 months, or a year, is that you see your friends and family in a way where you give them a lot of appreciation and love. And that's something that I've really been learning from this break from social media, in that you have all these people in your life that sometimes you don't recognize how much they've impacted you. And I have to say, each person in my life, especially my close friends and mentors, have made me a better man. And I remember, it was Mini Enterprise, I think. I was sitting next to my friend Aaron, and we were both in grade 12. And the lecturer, or whoever it was, this professional, I don't even know who his name was, he said, there's 5 people in your life that are going to be with you for life, excluding your family. And they're going to shape you. They're going to make you the person that you will become. And it's so important to surround yourself with people that make you feel good, make you better. And I thought about that. I was probably 17 years old at the time. Now I understand. I really understand the value of relationships. And I could also see the costs of not putting effort toward relationships. So where does this put me today? A year later, not using social media as frequently. I'm not saying that I didn't use it at all. I think that's a very hard, a very hard position on this. What I came to conclusion was, I have the opportunity now to come back to social media and share my experience, which is what I'm doing right now. And to use it intentionally now. Use it for the good that it has in my life. And to be able to connect better with the world, with my friends, with my community, by sharing what I know, by sharing what I've learned, by sharing myself, by being who I am comfortably